I got Broads in Atlanta. Hello everyone, Ryan here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new album from Brockhampton titled Saturation. Brockhampton is a fairly large hip-hop collective with Kevin Abstract, the famed R&B pop singer that has been compared to Frank Ocean, who is behind much of the production on most of the tracks that Brockhampton create. And I can't say I knew too much about Brockhampton before this release of Saturation, because I had never really heard much about them. I knew Kevin Abstract, I'd heard his album from last year, it was okay, but anything else from these guys I didn't know. They had a mixtape out last year which completely flew by me, but I was very impressed with all these singles that Brockhampton were releasing leading up to Saturation. Tracks like Star, Gold, Face were all fantastic songs that were making me think that this was going to be one of the most exciting hip-hop releases of 2017, and I've got to say Brockhampton have not disappointed at all. For me, hip-hop's had a fairly slow start to the year. There's not been too much that I've absolutely loved coming from that genre. There's been maybe 3 or 4 albums that I would absolutely recommend, but Brockhampton may have released the greatest hip-hop album of the year so far. The diverse sounds, all the different influences coming through on their music gives each track basically sounding completely different from the last track, and it doesn't sound like a complete mess, which you would sometimes expect from an album that doesn't have consistency. The production is stellar on all of these songs, and there are some heavy-hitting, hard bangers across this album, like the tracks Heat and Bump, which make for some of my favourites on the album. And I love how Bump also has a really nice chorus on it as well, where the song slows down into a nice vocal melody, but then it just comes back in on the verses banging hard again. I do wish more songs on the album were like these two, but that doesn't mean to say that all the others were bad in comparison, because they're really not. There's the track Swim, which is basically a Migos track with the auto-tuned vocals, but it's without the generic trap beat that Migos tend to incorporate in all their songs. The beat is actually quite interesting in comparison to what you'd hear from a Migos song. The track Gold has a really catchy chorus. It's one of my favourite singles I've heard so far this year, to be honest, and the verses from each member coming in is really good as well. I do like each sort of different personality each person brings in. It's just a shame that I can't quite work out who is who at points, because they do sound a little similar, but that's not to say that they are completely unrecognisable. Star is another fantastic track. It's really intelligent, and because it has these references to stars and celebrities, like each line pretty much references someone different, like Tom Hanks, Liam Neeson, and also the pretty funny line from Kevin Abstract where he kind of admits that he's attracted to Shawn Mendes, which I found kind of funny. Also, the track Milk is a pretty damn good one as well. I do love the mellow beat to this one, and it's very much an anthem on self-reflection and how the singer needs to get better at being themselves, as they're not really happy with the lack of social interaction in their life. So it's essentially them saying that they need to improve the way they are in order to get better at making friends and having more interaction with other people, which I do like this song, because it's not like pushing the blame on anyone else. It's kind of taking responsibility for your own self and how you could do better to improve yourself, and I do like the message there. The track Fake has a fairly simplistic chorus with the yippee-yi, yippee-yi. That's basic and a little bit redundant, but even though it's not that great, it's kind of impressive how Brockhampton can still bring in some pretty decent verses on this track, and also the beat to this song is really good as well. So even when there are some shortcomings to the track, there's another element to the song that's really good, and I think Brockhampton are very good at doing that. I do also want to mention how I love how the member Don McLennan can sing and rap really well as well, because that's a really good talent to have if you can sing and rap well, you know. People love Drake, but he doesn't always sing particularly that well, and his verses aren't very good either. But this guy, Don McLennan, has both, and on the track Bank is a good example of that. And the hook is really nice and smooth. I really like a lot of the singing across this whole album. The only thing is, though, is that I kind of wish that there was a little bit less singing and more focus on some of the bars and the verses, because I think that when they do come through, they are really good, but the singing does make up for it as well, because that has a lot of quality to it. I just wish there was a bit more rapping. Another example of the quality singing is the track Face, which has this beat and vocal that reminds me of Mick Jenkins, who made an amazing mixtape a few years ago titled The Waters, and that sounds like, the beat from that song, sounds like it could have featured on that mixtape, but also the deeper vocals later on in the track and the falsetto remind me of the song Drowning, which Mick Jenkins was also featured on, which was made by Bad Bad Not Good. But the falsetto on this song is really good. I mean, sometimes falsetto can sound unbearable, but this is how it's done right. One last thing I wanted to mention as well is that this album seems to have a bit of a theme of 4-letter title tracks. Like literally every song across this album is 4 letters, and the final song is a 5-letter track titled Waste. And I feel as though that could be some kind of transitional track to the next album, because I've heard that there will be another album coming out at some point. So it's sort of like maybe this is like a transition from this album to that album, and maybe all those songs on the next album will be 5-letter tracks. It's just a little thing I noticed. I don't know if it's anything worth noting or anything like that, but it could be a little hidden Easter egg that Brockhampton wanted to include on this album, and maybe there's some kind of theme going on there. But other than that, this album is fantastic. It's one of my favourites of the year. I'm going to give this a B+. Make sure you give it a listen. Any hip-hop fans will love this. Any R&B fans will love it as well, because like I said, there's so much singing and quality singing across the album. The variation of all the different sounds and instrumentation, and the fantastic catchy tracks as well. There's so much going for this album, and I think Brockhampton have become one of the breakout hip-hop collectives to come out in recent memory. This is certainly an amazing album that I will be talking about by the end of the year as well. Make sure you give it a listen. Also make sure you subscribe if you like this review, and have a good day.